Captain Blue stood at the command center of the Stellar Seeker Asterisk, their crystalline body reflecting the starlight from nearby portholes. The captain's inner lights pulsed with annoyance as they read the latest directive from Galactic Command. After 15 successful years of deep space exploration, they now had to add a human to their crew. "This is completely unnecessary," Captain Blue announced to their senior staff. "Our ship runs at peak efficiency. We have the finest minds from 7 advanced civilizations aboard." The ship's engineer, Doc, waved 3 of their 6 arms in agreement. "Humans still use combustion engines on their home planet. What could they possibly add to our crew?" The morning of the humans' arrival brought more grumbling. The entire senior staff gathered at the docking bay, watching as the transport ship connected to their airlock. They expected someone in a fancy spacesuit, maybe carrying advanced human military gear. Instead, Jack Miller walked through the doorway wearing old boots, worn jeans, and a beaten leather jacket that had seen better days. A simple toolkit hung from his belt, looking like something from a museum compared to their advanced repair systems. "Hi there," Jack smiled, looking around at the assembled aliens with genuine curiosity, rather than the fear or awe they expected. "Hope I'm not late. Had to help the transport crew fix their coffee maker before leaving." Captain Blue's crystalline form flickered with barely hidden disappointment. "You stopped to fix a beverage dispenser." "Well, yeah. Hard to start a journey without coffee." Jack shrugged. "By the way, you might want to check your port side stabilizers. Noticed some odd vibrations while we were docking." The ship's diagnostic officer, a tall insectoid named Buzz, immediately checked their advanced sensors. "All readings are normal. Human. Our systems are perfect." Jack scratched his head. Maybe. But that high-pitched whine during docking. Classic sign of microfractures starting to form. Might want to take a physical look, just to be sure. Captain Blue was about to dismiss this primitive observation when their policy required all safety concerns to be investigated. "Buzz, humor our new crew member. Send a maintenance bot to inspect." 20 minutes later, Buzz's antennae were twitching in disbelief. "Captain, we found 3 developing stress fractures in the port stabilizer assembly. They're minor now, but in about 2 weeks, they could have caused significant damage." The senior staff turned to stare at Jack, who was busy examining a wall panel with genuine interest. "How did you know?" Captain Blue demanded. "Our sensors showed nothing wrong." "My grandpa ran a repair shop back on Earth," Jack explained. "You learn to listen to machines. They talk to you if you pay attention. Sometimes the old ways of doing things still work pretty well." Over the next few hours, Jack was shown to his quarters, a space designed for beings twice his size. He immediately started rearranging things, pulling out tools from his small bag that nobody recognized. The crew watched in confusion as he hung pictures on the walls. Actual physical pictures. Set up what he called a mini workshop in one corner and placed a small plant on his desk. "That's a living organism," the ship's science officer pointed out. "It requires maintenance." "Yep, that's the point," Jack smiled. "Helps remind me to take care of things. Speaking of which," he turned to Captain Blue. "Would it be okay if I took a walk around the ship, just to get familiar with the layout and systems?" The captain wanted to refuse but remembered the stabilizer incident. "Very well. But do not touch anything without permission." As Jack left the room whistling a tune, a habit that deeply confused the sonic-sensitive crew members, Captain Blue turned to their first officer. "Keep him under observation. I want to know exactly what this human does." Nobody noticed at the time, but this was the beginning of a profound change aboard the Stellar Seeker Asterisk. The crew had expected a primitive being who would need constant help and supervision. Instead, they got Jack Miller, a human who would soon prove that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones, and that there was real value in seeing things from a different perspective. The advanced alien crew was about to learn why humans had survived and thrived despite their primitive nature, and why every ship in the galaxy would soon want one of their own. 3 weeks into Jack's time aboard the Asterisk, Stellar Seeker Asterisk, disaster struck. The ship was traveling through a remote sector of space when all navigation systems suddenly went dark. The sophisticated quantum computers that guided their path through the stars simply stopped working. How is this possible? Captain Blue's crystalline form pulsed with bright, worried colors. We have triple redundancy in our navigation systems. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Buzz's antennae twitched as they ran diagnostic after diagnostic. Doc waved all 6 arms over different control panels, trying to restart the systems. The quantum matrices are completely unresponsive, Doc reported. It's like they don't know where we are anymore. Jack had been quietly watching from his station, where he was supposed to be learning how to operate the ship's waste management systems. He raised his hand like a student in class, which still confused the alien crew. "Yes, human," Captain Blue asked, trying to hide their irritation. "This might sound strange, but are we passing through any areas with heavy radiation? Maybe some unusual solar activity?" The science officer checked their readings. "Yes, we're in the middle of a region affected by 3 dying stars. But our shielding is more than adequate to protect our systems." Jack stood up and walked to the main view screen, studying the star patterns. "You know, back on Earth, we used to have problems with our GPS satellites during solar storms. All that radiation would mess with the signal timing, made it hard for the system to sync up properly." The crew stared at him blankly. "What is GPS?" Buzz asked, the term unfamiliar to their advanced mind. "Global Positioning System. Old Earth navigation technology. Used satellites to triangulate position," Jack explained. "But when it failed, we had backup methods. My grandfather taught me celestial navigation when I was a kid. Said a good navigator should never depend only on computers." Captain Blue's color shifted to a skeptical purple. "You're suggesting we navigate like primitives?" "Just until we get the main systems back online," Jack said. He pulled out a small notebook, actual paper, and a pencil from his jacket pocket. "See those 3 bright stars? And that nebula? We can use them as reference points." The bridge crew watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as Jack began making calculations by hand, occasionally looking up to check star positions through the view screen. "This is highly irregular," the science officer protested. "We can't rely on such basic methods." But Captain Blue remembered the stabilizer incident. "Let him try. We're not going anywhere otherwise." For the next hour, Jack worked with pencil and paper, occasionally asking for specific stellar data that the ship's sensors could still provide. He made rough sketches, did calculations in the margins, and muttered to himself about angles and distances. Finally, he looked up. "Okay, I think I've got it. We're about 3 light-years off course, heading towards a dense stellar cluster. We need to adjust our heading by 12 degrees starboard and drop to half speed." The crew looked to Captain Blue, who hesitated for just a moment before giving the order. The ship changed course according to Jack's calculations. 6 hours later, the quantum navigation systems suddenly came back online. The science officer checked their position against Jack's calculations. "This is remarkable," they admitted reluctantly. The humans' primitive calculations were off by less than 0.01%. We would have wasted weeks of fuel if we continued on our original course. Jack shrugged, putting his notebook away. "Sometimes the old ways work just fine. My grandfather used to say that any tool that can't fail hasn't been used enough. That's why you always need a backup plan." Captain Blue's color shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. Perhaps we have become too dependent on our advanced technology. We never considered what would happen if all our systems failed at once. That's why you need humans." Jack grinned. "We're really good at planning for things to go wrong. Comes from thousands of years of things going wrong." From that day forward, the crew began to look at Jack differently. They still found his habits strange, like his insistence on doing some calculations by hand just to stay sharp. But they couldn't deny that having multiple ways to solve a problem wasn't such a bad idea after all. And Jack, he just smiled and started teaching interested crew members how to use a sextant, just in case. The Stellar Seeker was 2 months into deep space when the life support system began to fail. It started with a slight change in the air, something only Jack noticed at first, thanks to his sensitive human nose. Something's wrong with the air recyclers, he mentioned to Doc during their morning maintenance check. The six-armed engineer checked their instruments immediately. Impossible. All readings are normal, Doc said, but then paused. Though you were right about the stabilizers last time. They ran a deeper scan, and Doc's upper arms all froze in shock. This is bad. Very bad. The main molecular reconstructor is degrading. We have maybe 6 hours before it fails completely. The news hit the crew like a physical blow. Without the molecular reconstructor to clean and recycle their air, they would slowly suffocate. The nearest space station was 2 weeks away. We need to order a replacement unit, Captain Blue announced in the emergency meeting. Their crystalline form had turned a pale, worried white. But even with emergency shipping, it will take at least 5 days to arrive. We don't have 5 days, the science officer calculated. Even with emergency reserves, we have maybe 30 hours of breathable air. Jack, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly stood up. Can I see the broken unit? Doc led him to the maintenance bay where they had removed the failing reconstructor. It was an elegant piece of technology. A silver cylinder about the size of a small car, covered in complex circuitry. The quantum field generator is failing, Doc explained. Without it, the molecular separation process won't work. We can't fix it. It's a seal unit that requires specialized manufacturing. Jack walked around the cylinder, looking at it from all angles. Then he started pulling things out of his pockets, a small mirror, some wire, his ever-present multi-tool, and what looked like chewing gum. What are you doing? Doc asked, all 6 hands fidgeting nervously. Remember how I fixed the coffee maker on the transport ship? Jack asked, not looking up. Sometimes you don't need the exact right part. You just need to think about what the part does. For the next hour, Jack worked steadily, occasionally asking Doc to bring him seemingly random items, spare optical cables, a portable gaming device from his room, and most strangely, his plant's watering tray. The other crew members gathered to watch as Jack basically took apart half his personal belongings. He worked quickly, stripping wires, adjusting angles, and at one point, actually using the chewing gum to hold something in place. This is madness, the science officer whispered. He's destroying precision equipment to make. What is that? Jack stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. Okay, I think it's ready. Doc, can you help me hook it back into the main system? But what did you do? Doc asked, even as their hands moved to help. Well, Jack explained as they worked. The quantum field generator creates a specific energy pattern to separate molecules, right? Your gaming device has a quantum processor for graphics. I reversed its field, used the mirror and optical cables to amplify it. And the plant tray's metal helps focus the field. The gum, well, sometimes you just need things to stick together. The crew held their breath as they activated the system. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the air quality monitors started to show improvement. It's working, Doc exclaimed, checking the readings. The efficiency is only about 60% of the original, but it's enough to keep us alive until the replacement arrives. Jack finished. We'll need to monitor it carefully, and someone should probably chew some fresh gum every few hours to replace the seal, but it'll hold. Captain Blue's color had shifted to a deep, thoughtful blue. How did you know this would work? Jack shrugged. Humans have been fixing things with whatever's on hand for thousands of years. My grandfather used to say that understanding how something works is more important than having the right parts. After that day, the crew stopped seeing Jack's collection of random junk as primitive hoarding. His quarters became known as the Miracle Workshop, where impossible problems found strange but effective solutions. And if anyone noticed that Doc had started keeping a pack of chewing gum in their tool belt, well, nobody mentioned it. 3 months into Jack's stay aboard the Stellar Seeker Asterisk, the ship's efficiency expert, Green, a tall alien who looked like a walking plant, noticed something strange. Ship performance had improved by 23%, but the crew was spending more time doing nothing. "This is unacceptable," Green announced during a staff meeting. "Crew members are gathering in the dining area for extended periods, consuming this coffee substance the human introduced, and engaging in non-work discussions." Jack, who was sipping from his own coffee mug, smiled. "You mean the coffee breaks? Those are important." "Important." Green's leaves rustled with agitation. How is sitting around talking important? Captain Blue, who had recently started joining these coffee breaks, though they just sat there, being a crystalline being, raised a glowing hand. "Let the human explain." "Well," Jack set down his mug. "Remember last week when we had that problem with the cargo bay doors? Doc and Buzz solved it during coffee break. They weren't even talking about work. They were discussing Earth movies I showed them. But sometimes the best ideas come when you're relaxed and thinking about something else." The crew remembered. Doc had made an offhand comment about how the doors reminded them of a scene from Indiana Jones, and suddenly Buzz had realized how to fix the mechanism. "But that's not efficient," Green protested. "There should be designated problem-solving sessions with proper protocols." "Okay," Jack nodded. "Let's try something. Everyone up." He gestured for the crew to stand. Even Captain Blue rose, curious. "Now, I want you to think about the fuel consumption issue we've been having." "But," he held up a finger as Green reached for their data pad. "No computers, no data. Just stand and think." The crew stood awkwardly for a minute. Doc's 6 arms hung limply, unsure what to do without equipment to manipulate. "This is pointless," Green started to say, but Jack interrupted. "Buzz, what do you like to do when you're not working?" The insectoid alien's antennae twitched in surprise. I study Earth dance videos. The movements are fascinating." "Show us one," Jack suggested. As Buzz demonstrated a simple human dance move, the science officer suddenly straightened. "Wait. The fuel injectors, they're moving in a similar pattern to your legs right now. If we adjusted the timing to match this rhythm." For the next 20 minutes, the crew forgot they were having a meeting. They watched Buzz dance, made suggestions, and somehow ended up solving not just the fuel problem, but also 3 other minor issues they'd been struggling with. "See," Jack said as they finally sat down. "Sometimes you need to let your mind wander. Humans call it thinking outside the box." Green's leaves had stopped rustling. "But how do you measure the efficiency of wandering minds?" "You measure it in results," Captain Blue answered, their crystalline form glowing with a new understanding. "Our fuel efficiency is now projected to improve by 15% thanks to a dance move." Over the next few weeks, the changes spread throughout the ship. Crew members started taking regular breaks together. The dining area became a place where different species gathered to share stories, discuss problems, or just relax. Jack introduced more Earth concepts. Brainstorming sessions where wild ideas were encouraged, game nights that improved crew bonding, and something he called Friday Fun Facts, where crew members shared interesting things about their cultures. The biggest surprise came when Doc attempted to tell a joke during a coffee break. It was terrible. Something about why Earth plants never got lost, because they always had their roots with them. But the entire crew laughed anyway. Not because it was funny, but because Doc had tried. Even Green eventually came around, especially after discovering that their productivity reports showed a 30% increase in problem-solving efficiency across all departments. "I still don't understand how inefficiency creates efficiency," they admitted to Jack one day during coffee break. Jack grinned. "That's because you're thinking like a computer, processing one thing at a time. Humans are messy. We think about lots of things at once, make random connections. Sometimes the best way forward isn't a straight line. As if to prove his point, Buzz chose that moment to teach the entire crew the Macarena. And somehow, in the middle of the dance, the science officers solved their long-standing problem with the waste recycling system. Captain Blue just watched, their crystalline form glowing with amusement. Their primitive human was teaching them that sometimes progress looked a lot like chaos. The Stellar Seeker was mapping an unexplored sector when they received the emergency alert. An automated defense system, left behind by an ancient alien civilization, had activated. Before anyone could react, a strange energy pulse hit the ship. All the advanced weapons went dead. The shields failed. Even the backup systems wouldn't respond. Report. Captain Blue's crystalline form flashed with alarming colors. 3 automated defense platforms detected, Buzz reported, antennae twitching frantically. They're charging weapons. The science officer's screen showed complex energy readings. The pulse disabled all our quantum-based systems. We have no weapons, no shields, and minimal power. The crew turned to their usual problem solvers. Doc waved all 6 arms in frustration. We can't fix this quickly enough. The systems need a complete restart. How long? Captain Blue demanded. 20 minutes minimum, Doc replied. We have maybe 5 minutes before those platforms fire again. Everyone fell silent. Then Jack, who had been studying the ancient platforms through the main viewer, spoke up. We don't need fancy weapons. We need smoke and mirrors. The crew stared at him. What are smoke and mirrors? Green asked, leaves trembling. Jack grinned. It's an old Earth magic trick term. When you can't win with strength, you win by making the enemy see what you want them to see. He turned to Doc. The waste disposal system. It's mechanical, right? No quantum tech. Yes, but how does throwing garbage help us? Not garbage, Jack said, already moving to a control panel. We're going to make a smoke screen. Like octopi on Earth, when they're in danger, they release ink and escape. Captain Blue's color shifted to a thoughtful blue. Explain. Speaking quickly, Jack outlined his plan. The crew listened, their expressions moving from doubt to cautious hope. This is either brilliant or insane, the science officer muttered. That's humanity in a nutshell, Jack replied with a grin. Doc, I need your help with the disposal system. Buzz, get ready to plot us a crazy course. Captain, on my signal, I need you to cut all running lights. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Jack and Doc modified the waste disposal system, while Buzz calculated a complex flight path. The defense platforms grew brighter on the screen as they charged their weapons. Ready, Jack called out. Everyone hold on to something. This is going to get weird. On Jack's signal, Captain Blue cut all external lights. At the same moment, Jack activated his modified waste system. The ship's recycled water storage, mixed with special chemicals from the science lab, burst out in a massive cloud around the ship. The floodlights they had repositioned lit up the cloud, making it glow and shimmer. Now Buzz. The ship dove into the cloud, its course erratic. From outside, the glowing cloud would look like an explosion. The defensive platforms, programmed to track engine signatures, fired at their last known position. Hard to port, Jack shouted. The ship turned sharply, using the cloud cover to change position. Release second cloud. Another burst of glowing mist erupted, this time behind them. In the confusion, the automated platforms lost track of them completely. The Stellar Seeker emerged from the chaos on the other side of the defense grid, systems already beginning to restart. We're clear, Buzz announced, antennae wiggling with excitement. The crew stared at their screens in disbelief. The defensive platforms were still firing at the slowly dissipating clouds, completely fooled by their simple trick. That, Captain Blue said slowly, their color shifting to an impressed gold, was not in any tactical manual I've ever studied. Jack shrugged. Sometimes the old tricks are the best tricks. Humans learned a long time ago that you don't always need the biggest guns. You just need to be clever. And slightly crazy, Doc added, but they were waving their arms in what Jack had learned was their version of applause. The story of how a human had defeated an ancient defense system with basically water and lights spread quickly through the galactic communication channels. Back at Galactic Command, several admirals had to admit that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. And Jack? He just added defeated ancient alien defense system with plumbing to his growing list of creative solutions, though he did suggest they avoid that sector in the future, just to be safe. News of the Stellar Seekers' success with their human crew members spread across the galaxy like a wildfire. Ship captains everywhere began requesting human crew members after hearing how Jack had defeated an ancient defense system with just plumbing and lights. Another 7 requests today, Captain Blue announced during a morning meeting, their crystalline form glowing with amusement, including 3 from the Galactic Science Council. Jack looked up from his coffee. 7. That makes what? 42 ships this week. 45, Green corrected, their leaves swaying with what the crew now recognized as pride. After all, they had been collecting efficiency data on Jack's human methods for months. And our own efficiency ratings are now the highest in the fleet. The ship's communication system suddenly buzzed. On the screen appeared Admiral Starr, a being made of pure energy who rarely bothered with direct communication. Captain Blue, the Admiral's form sparkled. We have a situation. The Star Wanderer is stuck in the Nexus belt with complete system failure. They've been there for 3 days. Could your human? I can help, Jack offered, but I think it would be better if I taught their crew how to help themselves. That conversation led to the creation of what Jack jokingly called Human Ingenuity 101, a crash course in human problem-solving for alien crews. The Stellar Seeker became a floating classroom, with ships docking whenever possible to send crew members for training. Doc helped Jack set up the lessons, using all 6 arms to arrange what they called the Innovation Lab, a space filled with basic tools, spare parts, and lots of duct tape. Today's lesson, Jack would say to each new group, is about seeing problems differently. In human history, some of our best solutions came from asking, what if we tried something completely wrong? The aliens struggled at first. They were used to following manuals and protocols. The idea of trying wrong solutions seemed impossible. But what if the manual doesn't have an answer? Jack would ask. Then he'd demonstrate by fixing something in an unconventional way, often using paper clips or rubber bands in ways their manufacturers never intended. Slowly, success stories started coming in from across the galaxy. A cargo ship escaped pirates using Jack's smoke and mirrors technique. A research vessel saved their specimens during a power failure by creating a makeshift cooling system from food containers and cleaning fluid. They're calling it the human revolution in problem solving, Buzz reported one day, antennae wiggling with excitement. Ships without humans are starting to struggle in emergencies because they can't think. What did you call it? Outside the box, Jack grinned. Though some of your solutions are getting pretty creative too. It was true. The Stellar Seekers crew had changed dramatically. Doc now kept a collection of random useful things in all 6 of their tool belts. The science officer had started experimenting with combining different technologies in ways their designers never imagined. Even Green had developed a habit of asking, what would a human try when faced with a problem? Captain Blue received a special commendation from Galactic Command for pioneering the integration of human crew members. But what really made them proud was overhearing 2 young alien cadets during a training session. This won't work, one said, trying to fix a broken scanner. That's exactly why it might work, the other replied, reaching for the duct tape. Remember what Jack says, if it's stupid but it works. It's not stupid, they finished together, laughing as they created a solution that would have horrified the scanner's manufacturers, but got the job done perfectly. Later that day, Jack found a small gift in his quarters, a crystal from Captain Blue's own form, shaped into what they thought was a human thumbs up. It looked more like a potato, but Jack appreciated the gesture. Attached was a note that read, "Thank you for teaching us that perfection isn't always perfect. The galaxy needed a little human chaos." Jack smiled, placed the crystal next to his plant, which had somehow survived everything, including being used as part of 3 different emergency repairs, and headed to the dining area. It was coffee break time, and he had a feeling someone would have an interesting problem to solve. 1 year after Jack first stepped aboard the Stellar Seeker *, the ship docked at Galactic Command's main station for their annual review. The station was buzzing with excitement. This was the ship that had started the human revolution in space travel. Captain Blue stood proudly as Admiral Star, and the Galactic Council examined their report. The council chamber was filled with beings of all forms: energy creatures, crystalline entities, multi-limbed species, and even a few humans who had followed Jack's example and joined space crews. "Your results are remarkable." Admiral Star's energy form pulsed brightly. Ship efficiency up 45%. Problem-solving success rate increased by 82%. And the Admiral paused for effect. 0 casualties or major accidents in the past year, despite entering 3 disaster zones that other ships avoided. "All thanks to our human crew member," Captain Blue said, their crystalline form glowing with pride. How different this was from a year ago, when they had doubted the value of having a human aboard. Jack stood nearby, looking slightly uncomfortable in his formal uniform, which still included his old leather jacket. Some things never changed. Next to him, Doc was using all 6 arms to show a group of alien engineers what they called their emergency kit, a collection of simple tools and materials that had saved their lives multiple times. "Based on your success," Admiral Starr announced, "the Council has made a historic decision. From this day forward, all deep space vessels must have at least 1 human crew member." The chamber erupted in approving sounds, everything from crystalline chimes to energy pulses to good old-fashioned clapping from the humans present. Furthermore, the Admiral continued, "We're creating a new position, Chief Innovation Officer. Jack Miller, you'll be the first to hold this rank." Jack stepped forward, surprised. "Thank you, Admiral. But I hope this doesn't mean I have to leave the Stellar Seeker *. "No," Captain Blue chimed in. "You'll train others from our ship. We're becoming the galaxy's first human integration training vessel." The ceremony that followed was a mix of formal galactic tradition and what Jack called good old human partying. The station's dining area had been transformed. There was actually cake, after Jack had explained the concept to the station's food synthesizers, and someone had even attempted to make coffee. Green, who had become one of Jack's strongest supporters, was showing off their latest efficiency reports. "Look at this graph," they said to anyone who would listen, their leaves rustling excitedly. "The more we embraced human chaos, the better our results became." Buzz had taught the entire gathering to do the Macarena, a sight that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Even Admiral Starr attempted it, though energy beings didn't quite get the arm movements right. In the middle of the celebration, a young human woman named Anne walked up to Jack. She was to be assigned to another ship, the Star Chaser *, and looked as nervous as Jack had felt a year ago. "Any advice?" she asked. Jack smiled. "Just be yourself. Bring some duct tape. Oh, and..." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notebook and pencil. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." Captain Blue gathered everyone's attention for a final announcement. 1 year ago, I thought having a human crew member was an unnecessary regulation. Today, I can't imagine running a ship without one. Humans remind us that sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. Sometimes, it's the one that's crazy enough to work. The captain's crystal form shifted to display all the colors of success they had achieved together. To the humans, Thank you for teaching us that perfection isn't about having the best technology, but about having the creativity to use what you have in new ways. As Jack watched Anne board her new ship, carrying her own leather jacket and a toolkit he had helped her prepare, he thought about how much had changed. The galaxy had learned that they needed humans not despite their primitive ways, but because of them. Ready for another year of crazy solutions? Doc asked, all 6 hands ready for their human-taught fist bump. Always, Jack grinned. I heard there's a ship stuck in a temporal loop next week. Want to bet we can fix it with a rubber band and some coffee? The laughter that followed was universal. Some things, it seemed, were funny in any language.